Did we lose somebody? Okay, Dean, Bill, Rick. Okay. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the virtual Heart of the Rockies Medical Center / League of Women Voters of Chaffee County Virtual Candidate Forum. My name is Scott Hartman, the lead incumbent Dean Edwards of Poncha Springs, Bill Alderton of Salida, Richard Carroll of Salida, and Lydia Segal of Salida participating this evening. They are the 4 candidates vying for 3 director slots. Susan Dunn of Buena Vista is also here this evening. She is running unopposed for a 1-year term. She will be giving her 2-minute introductory statement, but will not be taking questions. I'd like to thank League of Women Voters of Chaffee County volunteers, Marilyn Box and Mary Helen Dunn. And also thanks to everybody in the audience for being here tonight. The director election is set for Tuesday, May 3rd, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The board of directors of the district have designated the following polling places: 1000 Rush Drive, Salida, Heart of the Rockies Regional Medical Center, 2nd floor conference rooms, and 112 Linderman Avenue in Buena Vista, the county annex there. Ballots, if you would like to fill out an application for an absentee ballot, there is a link right on the Heart of the Rockies website, right on the homepage. Applications will need to be completely filled out and returned to designated election official Juanita Ward, located on the 2nd floor of the hospital in the admin suite. And then those ballots can be dropped off after April 26th through Election Day, Tuesday, May 3rd. Anybody who has any questions this evening they would like to ask may do so in the chat function, and I will be monitoring those, and we'll try to get them included. The following is standard comments prior to the start of a forum. The League of Women Voters of Chaffee County is recording this forum, which will be available on their website, lwvchaffeecounty.org, in the next few days. The League requests anyone who utilizes this recording in any format, please respect the League's nonpartisanship. Follow FCC rules to preserve the context or intent of what is being said, and air the recording in its entirety. The League of Women Voters of Chaffee County is a nonpartisan organization encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government and influencing public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose candidates or political parties. Names were drawn earlier to determine the candidates' order for their 2-minute introductory statements. And we are going to begin with Susan Dunn of Buena Vista. Susan, go ahead. Susan, are you there? We have lost you. Let me ask this question. Are we all frozen up? Oh, no. Juanita, did you have anything to add to that? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
can you hear me
Susan.
now?
Hang on
Okay.
1 second, Susan. Juanita, are we good on what I said? Okay, okay. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, thank you for hosting this, Scott. Appreciate it. I've been a resident of Chaffee County for almost 30 years, and I'm very thrilled to be have the opportunity to serve on the board. In my time here, I've lived in Buena Vista and outside of Buena Vista. I have operated as working for a CPA firm during some of that time. Some of that time I have been, well, most of that time I've been working for the Small Business Development Center as a business consultant. And for the entire time, I have my own business doing branding and marketing and graphic design for small businesses. So I find myself hopefully useful on the finance committee for the hospital. And we've got many capital projects that have been explained to me and that need some work doing. So I'm happy to get to know hospital accounting. It'll be new for me and I'm excited to learn it. That's me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Lydia?
I want to thank Scott and the League for hosting tonight's candidate forum. And with my 35 years of experience as a family physician, both practicing clinical medicine as well as being an administrator for a Department of Integrative Medicine that I founded, I have a broad experience to bring to the hospital board. Additionally, I have a master's in public health, which gives me an understanding of both health promotion and health prevention. I think we probably all can easily agree that we want quality health care at the hospital and any remote clinics that it handles. And to be able to do that, it needs to have a strong financial base. And that will allow it to continue to grow. And when I say grow, I'm thinking about things like a walk-in clinic here in Salida, kind of like we've already gotten BV with expanded hours on the weekends and nights, an assisted living facility that are quite large, older population of adults would like. I know that from speaking to a number of people, as well as expanding and hiring more specialists where we might have holes or need more of for good access. And I'm often asked, why the heck am I running? Because I already volunteer doing health education classes at the hospital. And some of you may know I write a COVID Q&A in the newspapers. And the answer is pretty simple. I have the interest and the expertise and to go ahead and do this and to offer my services to the board. So in closing, I'd just like to say, of course, I'd like you to vote for me, but whoever you do vote for, please vote. Thanks a whole lot.
Thank you, Lydia. Bill, you're next.
Thank you. I want to thank the League for this opportunity also. I've lived in Salida for about a little over 40 years. The hospital has been an important asset in the community that entire time. And I think it's very important that you contribute your resources to this type of an organization. I've been an attorney for a little over 40 years, since 1975. I've been the Chaffee County judge since 1990 through 21. I retired in January of 21. I've been an attorney for 2 local government units here in the Chaffee County, the town of Poncha Springs for about 25 years, and the Buena Vista Sanitation District since 1997, up through today. I believe my experience as an attorney representing local governments would be valuable to the hospital district and the board. While an attorney on the board is not a substitute for the legal counsel that the board has, it is an important perspective that can sometimes be brought to the various discussions. The hospital district is currently in a good financial condition, and I would be committed to continuing that position. I support the building of an urgent care facility in Salida. This would allow the emergency room to receive a little bit of respite from people who don't really have true emergencies that qualify for the emergency room but need medical care at that time. The hospital has a number of specialties that have expanded in the years I've been here, and I would be committed to continuing that. I want to thank the League for this opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to cut you off there.
No problem.
Dean, you're next.
Yes, Scott, thank you very much for the opportunity. The reason that I'm running for re-election is because I feel it's very important for everyone to serve their community if they have the time and energy. After the past 3 years serving on the board's finance committee, it's my desire to continue to use those gifts and talents in finance analytics and technology to try and continue to make a difference to the community. When I look to the future of the hospital, here are some of my goals as a director. As the population of Chaffee County and the hospital district has grown over the past 7 years, we need to continue to strategically add healthcare services to minimize the need for our patients to go elsewhere, as Lydia and Bill have said. We need to continue to maintain fiscal responsibility in hospital operations. That's a particular issue of mine as a member of the Finance Committee. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for a number of reasons. The aging patient mix that the hospital sees, increasing housing costs, and changing state and federal regulations. However, this is, to me, one of the most important tasks of the hospital board. We need continuing vigilance and protection of electronic patient healthcare records, as hospitals have become an increasing target for bad actors in cyberspace. We need to aggressively continue to recruit and retain hospital staff. And although the hospital is, I believe, the largest private employer in Chaffee County, we face the same struggles that seemingly every employer is facing now in recruitment and retention of critical staff. And we need to do what we can to address housing affordability issues for current and future employees. With the help of the Hospital Foundation and some targeted donations, we are in the early stages of looking at possible transitional housing for staff to assist in recruitment. And finally, we need to review pricing of services to address affordability for patients lacking adequate insurance. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Okay, and we're going to end the introductions with Rick Carroll. Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm very honored to have such a field of candidates running for the same position as I am. I'm a Salida native. The Carroll family has been in Salida since the 1890s. And I have a very vested interest in the hospital particularly, because I have a skill set I think that is needed at this time. They've done an excellent job of building staff, doctors, and facilities. And now the house is built. I would like an opportunity to ask the folks that where the hospital serves, our clientele, if you will, what can we do to make the services more available, complete, and accessible? To that end, I have 40 years of small business that I've been an owner in as a consultant, and I developed the ability to listen, to ask questions and query, and to help design and execute programs to help the progress, not necessarily the progress, but help the development and the living in of a new feature, of a new facility. By that, I'm trying to say, I'd like to talk to folks, get their opinion, and see how we can meld that into this smooth running operation that exists today. And I believe I have the skills to do that. And I also like to say that my father was very instrumental in saving the Salida Hospital from going, the Denver and Rio Grande Employees Hospital from just being disappeared, and Salida not having a facility as we have now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Now we'll get started with the questions, and for the people who are observing the forum tonight, candidates will have 1 minute to answer these questions, and we set up these questions were received and then reviewed to avoid duplication and unfairness. And the order in which the first round of questioning will be Bill, Rick, Lydia, and Dean. So, Bill, this question is for you. What qualifies you to be a board member? 1 minute.
I believe my experience working with local government qualifies for me to serve on the board. I also believe as many people here, I have a long tenure in the community. I understand the issues facing Salida. and Chaffee County. And I think that that perspective will help me be an effective board member.
Okay, thank you. Rick, same question. What qualifies you to be a board member?
I think my ability to listen to and understand the needs of people and put that into action. Are we off the air?
I think Scott's frozen.
Yeah, Scott's frozen.
I think we are frozen. I am.
We're not frozen. Oh, he's back.
I guess we just,
I think we wait for Scott.
There he is.
Are we back? Sorry about that. I think we were ready to go to Lydia for that question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What qualifies you to be a board member?
Good question, Scott. I think it's important that the board have somebody with a medical background on the board. And I think I'm that person. I have decades worth of clinical experience, a decade worth of administrative experience, founding and running a department that included finance and hiring, firing, logistics. Additionally, with a degree in public health, that means I can look at populations of patients, whether it's by age, whether it's by location, say remote in San Luis Valley, or by specific diseases. And so that helps to make future planning a better thing. So that's what I think qualifies me. Thank you,
Okay.
Scott.
Thank you. Okay, round two.
No, Dean.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dean. I do this every time. Dean, what qualifies you to be a board member?
Well, first off, I'm currently a board member of the hospital and served the finance committee for the past 3 years. But I think it's my varying skills. And as Lydia said, there needs to be medical expertise on the board, but there needs to be widespread expertise in different areas like finance and technology. And that's where my expertise over 30 plus years in business lie. And so that's where I feel that I'm qualified to be a board member.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the second question and the first answer person will be Rick. Here's the question. What are the biggest challenges for HRRMC currently and in the next 5 years? Rick?
I think maintaining a high quality professional service and the ability for patients to have access to that service in a timely fashion and to be aware of the wide demographics, the different populations that we serve, and make our services more accessible to them at an affordable price.
Okay, thank you. Lydia, same question. What are the biggest challenges for HRRMC currently and in the next 5 years?
After speaking to a number of administrators at the hospital, I think it comes down to recruitment and retention, which is probably what a number of us will say. And I think it's to some degree easy to recruit people. We live in a really sweet area. People want to come here. The pushback, that the challenge is there adequate housing? And the hospital has done some creative things to work on that, including the RV park on the campus. And I know they're talking to some people. There are some other things potentially in the work for some transitional housing. And I think sometimes finding the right candidate for the right mix, for the right fit can be a challenge, but the hospital seems to, from talking to the HR folks who do the hiring, seems to be the way that they are working very diligently on that. And I see it. So I think that because salary is competitive, it's a matter of keeping to work on what we've got and working on the housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Dean, same question. What are the biggest challenges for HRRMC currently and in the next 5 years?
I think I would concur with Lydia's statement. There's two components. One, obviously, the recruitment and retention of the staff. Retention being an obvious issue given the housing costs and so on in the area that we're all aware of. But we also need to be aware of the competition that this hospital faces with other hospitals. If you see it, if you look in the paper, you'll see advertisements almost every time in the Mountain Mail for services elsewhere, not only in the county, but outside the county for strategic particular services. And that's something we need to continue, as I noted in my opening statement, that we need to strategically add those services that we can for those people that continue to migrate out of the Front Range and throughout the state, so that we can serve them as they continue to live here in Chaffee.
Thank you, Dean. Bill, what are the biggest challenges for HRRMC currently and in the next 5 years?
I tend to agree with Lydia's analysis that we have a good community that's very attractive, but we've become unaffordable, much in the same way that Summit County and Vail and places like that have become unaffordable. We need to work with the other units of government to try and address that problem, because it is not one that the hospital easily addresses. But we need to use the example of the RV park that the hospital put in. If Salida would amend some of its regulations to allow that to expand, to allow people to live there longer, that would be very helpful in recruitment. And that's going to be critical going forward for the 5 years.
Thank you, Bill. Next question, we're going to start round 3. We're going to start with Lydia this time. What do you think are the most pressing needs of the community that the hospital needs to attend to that are not currently being met?
Good question, Scott. I would say, do we have adequate staff? And I'm not talking just physicians, but do we have adequate staff so that there's some redundancy in case somebody leaves? So one is a staffing issue. The other is, do we have access to services? And it may not be a physician, but it may be a test that we can offer those people in a timely fashion. And in the more remote or distant locations that the hospital district serves, are we providing services where there is adequate demand that it makes sense to provide those services? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Dean, what do you think are the most pressing needs of the community that the hospital needs to attend to that are not currently being met?
Scott, when you said needs of the community, it to me focused not so much on hospital services, but rather community needs. And there's a delicate balance there. But what came to me was that a need in this community, which is not being addressed, though it has been attempted, is the need for senior housing beyond skilled nursing care. There have been 2 instances where there's been an attempt to build senior housing out here in Poncha Springs in the past few years, but they've all been focused on federal funding and have fallen through, and so nothing has happened. And though that's not something that happens quickly, there is an outfit in Minnesota who has spoken to the hospital about possibility partnering to provide that. And so there have been discussions going on. It's very early in the process, but it's something I think we need to at least consider down the road if we're looking out a number of years for community services that the hospital might be able to help with.
Okay, Thank you, Dean. Bill, what do you think are the most pressing needs of the community that the hospital needs to attend to that are not currently being met?
The hospital needs to continue to provide services. And in order to do that, we've got to be able to attract staff and keep staff. Right now, housing is becoming totally unaffordable in this community. And that is reflected in our ability to hire. Not only the hospital, but other governmental units have found that they have a great deal of difficulty attracting staff. And that's what we've got to do, because we have good services now and we need to expand those services. That takes good people.
Okay, thank you. And Rick, same question. What do you think are the most pressing needs of the community that the hospital needs to attend to that are not currently being met?
When I've spoken to people about my running for this position, the most frequently voiced concern was how can we make the facilities the hospital offer, particularly seeing a doctor, more available. And I know as a patient that if I have a need and I have to wait 3 months to see someone to help me meet that need, it is not really a good service for me. We have the facility. I think we have an excellent staff and an excellent group of doctors, but we've got to figure out how we get more access to them on a timely basis. And I also agree with Dean about the critical need for senior housing.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on that senior housing. This is a question. What do you, let me start again. Dean, we're starting with you this sort of coincidentally. What is the hospital district's place in establishing various levels of long-term care in the Arkansas Valley?
That's a great question. As I see it now, and for discussions amongst the board and the staff at the hospital is one of the only entities that really could cause this to happen in the near term, who might have the scope, and otherwise all the attempts thus far privately have fallen down. Much of the care, senior living, is not just a place to find seniors housing, but we're talking about memory care, and we're talking about assisted living, which speaks to healthcare, which is a component of it. However, the hospital is limited by statute as how involved it can be. In other words, ownership of such a facility. So really all the hospital can do is do what it can to facilitate. And that's something that we've discussed and we're going to continue to discuss. But I think it's be a partner, be involved, be an encourager as best we can. But that's something we'll have to see what goes forward. We have had discussions with the county and other folk, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Bill, same question. What is the hospital district's place in establishing various levels of long-term care in the upper Arkansas Valley?
I think the hospital, as Dean's pointed out, can assist in doing that, but it does not have the financial resources itself to do that. It has to be a partner with other people doing it, be that public or private. And it needs to be a willing partner in creating that type of housing, because as you can see from all of us, we're not all that young, and we represent a growing part of our community, perhaps the fastest growing part of our community.
Thank you. Rick, same question. What is the hospital district's place in establishing various levels of long-term care in the upper Arkansas Valley?
Frankly, I don't have an answer for that, but I do see a opportunity to be a partner in that development, but I don't have that answer. However, I'm a pretty quick learner, and I would like to facilitate those answers once they become available to us, but I don't know.
Thank you. And Lydia, same question. What is the hospital district's place in establishing various levels of long-term care in the Upper Arkansas Valley?
I want to follow and agree with what Dean said earlier on this question. There's clearly a need, and the community that accounts for 26% in the hospital district of our over 65 population, clearly wants some kind of an assisted living facility with a memory care unit with some kind of extended home health care, because folks don't want to move. They want to stay here. And creating some kind of a joint venture with a private company, such as the one that Dean referenced earlier in Minnesota, and some buy-in from either the county or the city for more, other funding that would help to make that, whether it's on the hospital campus or whether it's somewhere in the valley. So it has a place, it's just how it does it. Are we frozen?
Yeah, I think we lost Scott again.
Thank you, Lydia.
I think so.
Next round this is round. Did?
Just for a second, Scott, you're back. You were only, I was done,
Am I
and that's
back?
when we lost you just for a second.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting a signal. Okay, this is round 5. We're going to start with Bill here. What are the strategies for recruitment and retention of staff? Bill.
Well, you need to obviously cast a wide net looking for staff, but really the problem is making sure they can come here. You not only have to identify the person you want to hire, but you need to look at their family and make sure they will be able to function in this community. Most of us are a 2-income family, and because of that, you need to make sure that you are meeting the needs of both people that you're trying to recruit to this community. And we need to finally have competitive wages. That will always be a moving target. That will always be something we struggle with, because you have to live within your means, but you have to make sure that you do have reasonable wages that are attractive to get good people to this community.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Rick, same question for you. What are the strategies for recruitment and retention of staff?
Listening to the needs of young people that would like, or whomever the staff may be, whatever, to frankly, I'm unprepared to answer that. I have a I'm an outsider looking in at this. I don't have much experience with hospital operations. And all I can say is that I agree with Bill that we have to be attuned to the needs of the people we're trying to recruit, and see if we can't work as a operator within the community to assure that there is housing available. Hello.
I think we've lost you.
Yeah, Scott's frozen on a white.
I've lost sound.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rick.
No.
Rick, I think you're fine. It's Scott who's cutting out.
I think that's correct.
I couldn't.
I started to go ahead, Rick.
Scott, you're back.
We're going to flash. Okay, we're going to flash this. Go ahead, Rick, if you have want to finish up your thought.
I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Lydia, same question. What are the strategies for recruitment and retention of staff?
So I went in and spoke with the 2 components of HR that do the hiring for both the docs as well as mid-levels and non-direct and nursing and non-direct medical staff that the hospital needs. And the kinds of strategies they're doing for recruitment are making sure they respond within less than 24 hours to any query. They're reaching out to other areas to see if people are interested in coming. They're reaching out to current staff and saying, do you have a friend or family member that wants to come to the hospital to work and has some tie into the community? Because apparently tie into the community is something that keeps people staying. So they either have friends, family, or they just love this area. And those are some of the kind of novel strategies that are being used, as well as a few in-training programs for the CNAs that was just instituted by Bob Morosco about a year ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. And finally, Dean, to you, what are the strategies for recruitment and retention of staff?
With respect to recruitment, I feel confident in the strategies that are happening currently with staff at the hospital. They are attuned to availability and locations where they can find staff. To me, the biggest strategy that needs focus, as we've spoken about many times already, all four of us, is the issue of retention and getting creative about what we can do to retain staff. The hospital administration has done a good job in retention, in my judgment, through the COVID pandemic. It was no picnic, to say the least, but we've got a great staff still there. But retention is an ongoing issue, housing being, as we all know, one of the major issues. So the creativity there is going to be key going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dean. Moving on to round 6, we're going to start with Rick here. Rick, how is the hospital funded, and does it have a responsibility to care for the uninsured or undocumented?
I don't know how it's funded. Were these questions available prior to our?
No, these are all questions that came from the greater hospital district community.
I see. Thank you. Are we going to have a closing statement?
Yes.
Well, originally we hadn't planned to, but we sure can.
Well, let me take this opportunity to make my closing statement, if I may.
Well, let's not. Why don't you just go with your answer there, and we will give you an opportunity at the end for a closing statement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is that okay?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Lydia, then the same question for you. How is the hospital funded, and does it have a responsibility to care for the uninsured or undocumented?
So the hospital is funded, as I understand it, from talking to some of the finance people at the hospital. Basically 95% is funded through insurance, whether that insurance is private or it's governmental, like as in Medicare. And there is a small portion of the remaining 5% that is mill levy, that is charitable donations via the foundation, and that is cash. It is a nonprofit hospital. So if you walk in, you get treated whether you have money in your back pocket or not. So I think that answers the second part of your question. Keep in mind that there's little latitude in revenues generated by those with insurance, because those insurance rates are to some degree set. There's a little flexibility, but not a huge amount from my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. Dean, same question for you. How is the hospital funded, and does it have a responsibility to care for the uninsured or undocumented?
Lydia's statement is accurate based on my knowledge of the finances. Obviously less than 5% comes from the mill levy and also other programs, particularly from the state. And besides the fact that it being a nonprofit, and you would think having to serve others, there are state statutes that require us and programs associated that require people who walk in the door to be cared for. It becomes a question of how they pay or under what auspices. But the fact is, if you come in for service, you will be treated. And the bulk of the funding comes from the charges for the services that the hospital provides. I think we lost Scott, but I don't think I was at 15 seconds yet.
We have him back yet.
I don't believe so unless he's sneaking in on a telephone. Doesn't look that way.
Give him another minute or two.
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
I'm sorry. I lost everybody's connection there, and I guess we're back. Dean, I'm going to about 20 more seconds to finish what you were going to say.
I believe I finished it up before you even attempted a 15 seconds. So
Okay.
I was basically echoing what Lydia said with respect to the funding, and not only our nonprofit status, but state statutes require us to serve those who show up at the door.
Okay, thank you. And Bill, same question for you. How is the hospital funded, and does it have a responsibility to care for the uninsured or undocumented?
I agree with Lydia's outline of the funding. The hospital's a bit unique as a public entity and a public district in that it also has to comply with state laws relating to governance. But its funds, 95% coming from insurance of some kind, is the major source of funding. It does have a responsibility to treat the uninsured as well as the undocumented. Anybody who walks in the door under state and federal law is required to be provided with emergency services and to be treated.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to do two more questions, and then we will do a 1 minute closing statement from each of the candidates. So we're going to start with Lydia on this round. And here's the question. What services do you think should be expanded, and which ones should be reduced or eliminated at the hospital?
So I don't know that
Lydia, did you hear that?
if I heard you correctly, it's what services expanded and what services deleted that the hospital currently has. Is that the correct
No.
question?
That reduced or eliminated?
Reduced or eliminated? I'm not sure I see any that need to be reduced. I think there are services that could be expanded, and it's whether it's adding a specialist where we don't have one, geriatrician, oncology are two that come to mind. Is there enough demand for that service? And can we put that service in place? Are there parts of cardiology testing that might be able to have both the space and the financial resources? Also comes to mind. Have to do a deeper analysis, but those are the things off the top of my head. I would say that there's some need in some of our remote locations where people have to travel a great distance, and figuring out whether that makes sense in terms of demand and would be on my plate as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean, same question for you. What services do you think should be expanded, and which ones should be reduced or eliminated?
First, I don't believe any of the services should be reduced or eliminated based on what we see. We have some services where the hospital loses money, but it's a strategic decision to keep it going. For example, family birthing center. That's a perfect example. That's something you don't want to eliminate. But the services that Lydia was talking about make sense. We are looking at a number of things such as wound care using hyperbaric oxygen chambers as one possibility. That there's some issues associated with that, but we continue, the administration continues to look at not only expanding the different services, different surgical specialties, things of that nature. We just added, for example, a lipidologist and diabetologist to the staff. So these are very specialized needs, particularly for the aging population. So I think we will move in an expansion mode rather than us trying to reduce services. Of course, we've got to be financially responsible, but yet that's the direction I believe we will go.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Bill, same question for you. What services do you think should be expanded and which ones should be reduced or eliminated?
I agree with both Dean and Lydia that we should not be looking at reducing services if there's any way to avoid it. And that's going to be something that you may end up crossing that bridge, but you certainly don't want to. I think we need to expand all of the services we can. We need to keep going out to the remote areas. That is a very underserved portion of our communities, and we need to make sure that we keep that going, because this is a rural area, we're a rural hospital, and we need to recognize that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Rick, what services do you think should be expanded and which ones should be reduced or eliminated?
I agree with everybody. I don't think anything should be reduced or eliminated. Expanded, I do not know. I'm not privy to the demographics of that. But I do know there is a real pressing need for the ability to see a doctor in a timely fashion. And if there's some way that we can accomplish that without much more additional expense, I would like to see that.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Next question, and we're starting with Dean here. What issues or concerns do you hear from Heart of the Rockies district residents?
The primary concerns that I've heard are, I'll call it administrating and staffing ones, where as a result of staffing shortages, people leaving, whatever, the first line of defense where a customer or patient comes in, they didn't receive a response in a timely fashion. I personally have had a problem calling in and leaving a voicemail, but the voicemail disappeared out into the ether. Now, so I was able to follow up and find out what was going on. But those are the type of things that I've heard mostly. What I've heard with respect to patient care is nothing but positive. And I've been fortunate to see a lot of feedback from patients in my position on the board. And so I think it's the dealing with the outer edges where the first contacts for our patients, those are the things that we need to work on the most, at the registration and medical assistant contacts and so on. That's where we need to work on it. But I can say that I know the hospital is very aware of that and are doing everything they can to do better in that area.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Bill, same question for you. What issues or concerns do you hear from hospital district residents?
Well, I hear concerns addressed by the staff, and they're reflected in the resident comments, in that we're having a lot of difficulty getting and keeping good people, and we're working some of them too hard, to be perfectly blunt. And we're going, we have to find that balance between being able to meet the needs of the community, but have adequate staff. And it comes back to the finances. And we have to make sure that we can adequately compensate people and get them interested in these fields. The people who go into medicine love it, and they do it for that reason primarily, but they have to be able to make a living.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Rick, same question for you.
I agree wholeheartedly with Dean's statement. As an adult educator, and you see and as a consultant that looks into problems, if you see, as we have seen, the staff turnover on that buffer, the first folks that greet you, the turnover there has been very great, in my opinion. My question is why, and what can we do about that? And I think one of the problems in talking to people that have held those positions is they're not adequately trained. They're trained in what is called a buddy system, and the buddy system is left entirely up to the ability of the person they're going to replace to train them. And the turnover is so great that that replacement doesn't know, or the person that holds the job does not know what, in fact, to impart to the new employee. I'd like to see that changed.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Lydia, same question for you. What issues or concerns do you hear from hospital district residents?
I hear two sets of concerns. One is about some of the things that have already been addressed. We want an assisted living facility with a memory care and home health care, which we discussed earlier today. And we want a walk-in urgent care clinic in Salida like they have in BV. Obviously, those are things that the hospital is already working on. And as Dean mentioned, sort of logistics questions. What's the check-in process like? What's the timely access to appointments? And I guess I would add in, how do you communicate via telephone, or how do I get into the electronic medical record? I want to use it, but how do I get into it? So those are some of the concerns that I hear. I do not hear any complaints about the quality of care. Everybody loves the quality of care that's being given. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. We're going to stop the questioning there, and then we will ask the candidates each to give a closing up to 1 minute statement. And we're going to go in the opposite order from the opening statements. And that order then will be Rick, Dean, Bill, Lydia, and Susan. We're going to ask you to unmute and go ahead and give a closing statement also. So, Rick, if you're ready, go ahead and give that closing statement.
Thank you. I think it's patently obvious that there's 3 better candidates than myself based on the answers and their knowledge that they gave. And I would like to encourage the audience to vote for those 3 and take advantage of that knowledge they already possess. And it's been an honor and an education for me to participate in this. And I thank you, and I feel greatly relieved that there's so many good, well-qualified people that are running for this position. Thank you. I wish you well.
Thank you, Rick. Dean?
Thanks, Rick. That's very much appreciated. I think, simply put, the quality of care at Heart of the Rockies is great. There is more work that can be done. I believe that that work is underway. The staff at Heart of the Rockies are humans, and so therefore we have to understand that. But I'm proud to be a board member right now, and I have not shied away from saying so in the community, and I'm thankful for that. I also want to say thanks to Lydia and Bill for their comments. What really the community needs to do is ensure that proper board governance requires a broad range of skills, and that's what is necessary. It is my hope that I can provide some of that on the board going forward over the next 3 years. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Dean. Bill?
I want to thank Rick for his comments. In looking at the group tonight, it was very clear that everybody can work with people. And that's the most important quality. A board has to be able to talk to each other, to reach a consensus and make decisions. I think that we all can do that. I've worked in that field for a number of years. I think it's one of the most important things that has to happen going forward. And I would like to participate in doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Lydia? Up to 1 minute for a closing statement.
Thank you, Scott, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this. I think by this point, what I contribute, what's probably obvious, is what I contribute is the medical side, along with both on the clinical side and the administrative, as well as the public health side. And as is evident by this conversation tonight, I think we're all good listeners and have the ability to come to consensus, and that's critically important. And Rick, I appreciate your comments and support there near at the end. And again, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. And Susan, will you give us a 1 minute closing statement for your unopposed 1 year term candidacy?
Well, having listened, I'm thrilled to know these people. And I've had the opportunity to sit in a couple of meetings with Lydia. And I'm just so glad to be with such experienced, educated folks from the medical background and finance backgrounds. And the issues are, as always, imperative for our community. And I'm very honored to be able to work on these things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, all of your candidates, for being here tonight. Thank you for those who have listened in tonight. Also know you can tell your friends that this forum will be available at lwcchaffeecounty.org over the next couple days. The people of Chaffee County are very lucky. The people of the hospital district are very lucky to have such qualified candidates running for the board of directors. I've been the voter services coordinator for the league for a number of years, and all the municipalities of Chaffee County and the county itself and the Senate district and the House district, we've been very, very lucky to have people who are willing to step up and serve. And with that, I think we're going to close this down. Again, thank you, candidates: Dean Edwards, Rick Carroll, Lydia Segal, Bill Alderton, and Susan Dunn. Thank my volunteers, Mary Helen Dunn, the timer, and Marilyn Box. And hopefully this is going to be my last candidate forum, but who knows? Thank you very much, and we're going to close it out. Thank you.